Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today, and I have got the Svartpilen 401. This is the 2020 model. Not really any ergonomic differences to the previous model apart from the subframe and the pillion seat, and I've very kindly been lent this bike for a couple of hours by Moto Hub to have a look at the updated version. Now, these are still a great value option, as I'll have explained in my full review, check that out. But I want to concentrate just on the ergonomics and how you as a rider might fit this bike. Now, a couple of things about this bike. Number one, very, very light, which makes it an easy machine to handle. The only thing is, this has an 835mm seat height, which is a very tall seat height when you consider that a lot of the competition are around that 785, 790, maybe 800mm seat height, where this is somewhere between that and really the 390 Adventure. Now, obviously you're not getting enormous ground clearance on this. You're still getting a pretty decent amount of ground clearance. You're getting about, I think, 145mm. You're getting a decent amount of travel suspension from the WP Apex suspension as well. And it's got the off-road style, or the dual sport style tires on it. So it's, you know, it's a bit of an all-rounder motorcycle. However, the one thing to keep in mind is that it's got a taller seat height, and if you're a much shorter rider, you'll need to check and see whether that works for you. For me, at 180 centimeters with a 32-inch inseam, I find this bike pretty much perfect, keeping in mind that my everyday ride is a Daytona, and that has an 830mm seat height, so I'm very used to that. The other thing to keep in mind, because those first two things kind of offset each other, is that you've got a very upright seating position, which again works to the benefit of this machine for new riders, as well as having a nice kind of more neutral seating position compared to particularly the Svartpilen, which has the lower handlebars. I'll jump on and give you a look. So as you can see here, I think this is a very compact bike, particularly when you're riding it, because it's such an agile handler. That really is something that you'll feel, and it's got a nice upright seating position, and that's the kind of seating position which is going to offer the most confidence and the easiest control of a motorcycle, which makes this a great first motorcycle, despite being, you know, quite an impressive machine as far as performance for a 400cc option, but while still being a very, very fun thing to ride as well. One of the things you will find as far as the ergonomics of these kind of machines is the more upright seating position with the nice wide bars and the more naked bike style is that they kind of give you a bit of a magnification of the feel of everything on the bike. So when you're riding it, it feels like you're a lot more engaged with the machine, I would say, compared to like the more super sport machines where you have to be going really, really quick to get that same kind of feeling. Now, there's plenty of room for me in the legs. As far as the seat to peg ratio, it's a very comfortable reach to the bars. The bars aren't particularly high or low. There's a little bit of angle on those bars, but you know, generally speaking, it's just got my hands slightly wider than my shoulders, which is quite a natural seating position. And the thing to keep in mind is that with those wide bars, and I say this quite a lot with a lot of these smaller machines, but it's particularly true with this, a little bit of bar input goes a very, very long way. Great vision through the mirrors, easy view of the dash. The indicator light, which tells you if you've left them on, is at the top of the dash, which is good. It doesn't tell you which way it's pointing, but largely unnecessary. And overall, I've got to say I'm really impressed with the overall design of this bike, because while it does have that much taller seat height, which is something that's going to be an issue for some people, I think the overall bike feels compact, it feels very natural, it feels quite comfortable as well for kind of that smaller form factor bike, and it's very much got that Street Fighter theme to it, and it's not just a bit of a look, it's something which carries through to the whole bike as a whole, which is really, really good. The pillion seat, it's a little bit longer now with that larger subframe to make it a little bit more comfortable for a pillion. As I said before, it's really not something that I'd be highly, you know, worried about with this kind of style bike. It's not something that I'd buy to put someone on the back more than, you know, once a month if I was taking someone for a coffee, and a very short ride at that. But they've taken the feedback on board, and they have done that. You've got adjustable levers as well on both sides, which means you don't need to splash out on those. And if you've got smaller hands, you'll be able to adjust them, or larger hands, you'll be able to adjust those. very, very easily. Get that all done. Adjustable suspension front and rear, which again is a really good feature because if you're a larger or smaller rider, you'll be able to tweak that a little bit to get it a little bit better for you. But it's got a very premium suspension system, I would say, on it to start with, particularly considering it's such an affordable motorcycle. As I said in the full review, the specs of this motorcycle are much higher than the price would suggest because originally these were about like almost 50% more than they are now. So just to reiterate, it's a nice, quite open, but at the same time, compact seating position, very upright seating position, so you've got great vision down the road. You're not like on a sports bike where you're kind of down here and you're having to, you know, get your neck and your back and everything involved. It's still got a little bit of a sporty edge to it, but it's quite an upright seating position and quite a neutral seating position overall. Getting my feet up on the pegs as well, very, very natural, very easy to grasp the bike between my legs, and it's very, very narrow between the legs as well, which is always important. Now, one thing I will mention is that unfortunately the stand where the little kick part on the stand is directly below the foot peg on this side of the bike, so it can be a little bit of a you know, struggle to get that down, but hardly much to complain about. As I was mentioning, it's super narrow between the legs here, which is part of what, along with the seat height, gives you an easy reach to the ground. And as you should hopefully have just seen when I was on the bike with both of my feet down, for me, 32-inch inseam, 180 centimeters, I can get both feet flat, no issues at all. There's not an enormous amount of sag on this bike because the suspension's, you know, like a pretty premium system. It's not like a dirt bike where the bike settles this enormous amount. And overall, I think while I would caution people who are on the shorter side to make sure that you can jump on this bike and get, you know, one foot down or one toe down in a way that gives you a bit of confidence, there's the taller seat height to consider, but overall the lightweight, the easy handling, certainly it's got more than enough performance to have some fun if you're worried about that. But as far as just the ergonomics themselves, they are very, very suited for new riders. And if anything, it's probably a bike which may be a little bit harder to get started on, which is something that I normally say about the 650cc machines because they're a little bit heavier, but they're also more powerful and they've normally got a little bit of a taller seat height. That's something I normally say about them, but you know, that means that as you've spent more time on them, you've got more to grow into. And I think in some ways with this bike, it's definitely moving towards that larger capacity category as a bike because of the taller seat height, but also because it's got plenty of performance and it's quite a high spec machine overall. A couple of other features that you might notice related to the ergonomics is of course that the seat comes quite high up here on the tank in that kind of dirt bike style theme, which is something that kind of carries across with the dirt bike style wheels and tires as well. Very nice thing to see. You've also got some rubber mounted pegs as well as the shifter. There's a little bit of vibes, but nothing too bad. And it's just a very cool machine. So either check out my full review, or if you've enjoyed this video, if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. As always, I'll try my best to answer. If you'd like to follow the channel and support it, hit that notification bell. As always, stay safe out there and thanks for watching.